would like to thank our sponsor Boot Labs Inc. for supporting the Malaviya Jayanti event. They have a pioneering product, Sailor, a multi cloud management platform to simplify cloud adoption through a single control plane.
I'll take this opportunity to present a brief summary of missions activities. So I'll first start off with the summary of the last 2 years and then go on to the plans for the next year. So during the pandemic years, which were 2020 and 2021, activities of the Bangalore branch were severely restricted. We did the best we could to help the society at large. Mission took up food donation activities to support the section of the society that were feeling economic pain. For example, migrant laborers and slum dwellers in the periphery of Bangalore. Distributions were done in multiple phases and covered different areas. Approximately 200 low-income families are expected to have benefited from this drive. As COVID worsened in 2021, as we probably all remember, the availability of oxygen became a challenge. Mission stepped up to donate oxygen cylinders and concentrators to hospitals operating in the slum area of Bengaluru. These hospitals were treating low-income patients who could not afford either cylinders or concentrators. During the COVID lockdown, as the outside activity was severely restricted, the mission organized several webinars during this time. Some of the notable ones, we actually organized around 8 to 10 webinars. I'll just call out a few ones which are remarkable. One was on the history of BHU, or the founding of BHU. So this was a webinar where a lot of contextual and interesting backstory behind the founding of the BHU and how there was a bit of a rivalry between BHU and the Kashi Vidyapeeth was revealed to us. Most of us are not aware. So then we had the other interesting webinar, which was the Malaviya ji's notes on India and India's Industrial Commission. So this was a webinar regarding how Malaviya ji contributed to the framing of the India's industrial policy way up in 1900s, like 1916 and 18. And it's again a very insightful webinar, and I'll really recommend it. If we've not seen, we should try that. The other interesting, notable one was a webinar on Vedic Bharat, and this was a self-story of a founder of a Sharot Rig Vedic tradition Gurukul, which is founded by a software professional, and he had kind of pivoted over from his career to go into and founding this and running this Gurukul on a day-to-day basis. We invited him to share his journey in doing that.
Bharat Ratna Pandit Madan Mohan Malaviya ji was a great freedom fighter, a social reformer, educationist and founder of Banaras Hindu University, our own Banaras Hindu University. 4-time president of Indian National Congress. He worked almost in all the fields of Sanatan Dharma, Ganga, Gita, Nari Siksha, journalism and so many other fields. No one other than Malaviya ji came forward to give the mantra diksha, as Govindji sir was talking about, to our Dalit brethren at Kashi. He only fought the case of 171 revolutionaries for the Chauri Chaura Kand. I don't know how many of you remember that, and saved the lives of 151 from gallows. He tirelessly worked not only for the Hindu Dharma, Sanskrit, Vedic culture and ancient history, but also he brought the modern science and technical education in India.
बेंगलोर चैप्टर के या बेंगलोर केंद्र के सभी सदस्यगण और इस विशेष समारोह में उपस्थित हुए मैसूर के हमारे महाराजा वाडियर एमपी तेजस्वी सूर्या जी, यहाँ के इस चैप्टर के सभी पदाधिकारी और सदस्यगण। जब सोचता हूँ मालवीय जी के बारे में तो काफ़ी कुछ चीज़ें सामने आती है। वैसे ही मैं बीएचयू के बारे में जब सोचता हूँ तब भी काफ़ी कुछ चीज़ें सामने आती है। मालवीय जी का देहावसान 1946 में हुआ। मैं बीएचयू में 1955 में पहुँचा। वैसे मैं एक बहुत छोटी सी जगह से और बीएचयू में पहुँचा था। हमारा
Friends, Pandit Ji's personality was a stark reminder that Vidya dadati vinayam and vinaya datadi patratam. We have seen that people who are blessed with opportunities of either great education or scholarship or wealth or power generally tend to forget humility. But Madan Mohan Malaviya became Mahamana because Vinamrata was the crowning glory of his personality. Well, we don't have to say, or it's because we have the Maharaja of Mysore here, the stark difference is very clearly visible, and it is something that we must remember. On one hand, we had a Nizam who threw slippers at Pandit Madan Mohan Malaviya when he went to beg donations for BHU. And on the other hand, we have the Mysore Maharaja who accepted to be the Vice Chancellor, the very first Vice Chancellor of Banaras Hindu University. The Chancellor of the Banaras Hindu University. Through education and through activism and through humility, Pandit Ji inspired a generation. He brought change not through his speeches, but he brought change through his actions and through the kind of life he lived. So if one were to ask what is the message of Pandit Madan Mohan Malaviya, it is suffice to say that in his life you will find his message. Because he lived what he preached, and what he practiced is what he lived. Perhaps that is why he was given the title of Mahamana. And Kalidasa defines who a Mahatma is. He says, Manasyekam, Vachasyekam, Karmanyekam, Mahatmanaha. Only that man whose manas, whose thought, whose words, and whose deeds are all the same is the man who is a Mahatma. Which is why Pandit Madan Mohan Malaviya was called the Mahamana by people as great as Mahatma Gandhi and Rabindranath Tagore himself. I only want to say this and conclude that certain people and certain legacies cannot be erased, howsoever hard a few vested interests may try. Because these certain persons never lived for themselves, they always lived for a larger cause. Today, as the country is embracing the national education policy, the core of which is to provide a 21st century education policy for Indians rooted in Bharatiya ethos and traditions, it is the greatest tribute that the country can give to one of India's greatest educationists, Pandit Madan Mohan Malaviya. Through the education policy, he will live. Through the Bharati current of Indian politics, Pandit Madan Mohan Malaviya will live. When the Ayodhya Ram Mandir will finally open doors in 2024 to millions of devotees all across the world, through that Bharati current of Indian politics, Madan Mohan Malaviya will live. When children in tomorrow's schools and tomorrow's colleges will read Indian history, which is truthful, which is not whitewashed for political agenda, when they will feel proud of being Indians and Hindus in that sense of the term, and they will aspire to be torchbearers and ambassadors of this great culture, through that legacy and through that reality, Pandit Madan Mohan Malaviya will live, and he will live for a few hundred years.
All come to the joint outcome that there is no necessary for these limitations to be there, and His Holiness, of course, takes the decision immediately thereafter and removes such a thing. So his mark is just not within Banaras Hindu University, but also within this Mysore realm of his grander movement towards bringing Dharma back to what it was in our, towards our core civilizational values of inclusivity for all. And I think that is something that needs to be touched on going forward, especially when you talk of such luminaries such as Pandit Mohan Malviya's life and his times and his legacy.
We would like to thank our sponsor Boot Labs Inc. for supporting the Malaviya Jayanti event. They have a pioneering product, Sailor, a multi cloud management platform to simplify cloud adoption through a single control plane.